Today, I am proud to create him Prince of Wales. With Catherine beside him, our new Prince and Princess of Wales will, I know, continue to inspire and lead our national conversations, helping to bring the marginal to the centre ground.
Queen Elizabeth says she wants Camilla, the Duchess of Cornwall, to be known as Queen Consort.
King Charles just made a move that has everyone talking. He pulled attention away from Camilla and shifted serious spotlight onto Catherine. People close to the palace say the Princess of Wales was handed influence that completely caught Camilla off guard. And to make it worse, Camilla's final request was reportedly shut down fast. No debate, no back and forth. So now everyone's asking, what did she ask for that got rejected so hard? And did Charles quietly boost Catherine's standing while leaving his own wife in the dark? This sudden twist didn't come out of nowhere.
I am deeply aware of this great inheritance and of the duties and heavy responsibilities of sovereignty.
If you rewind to 2005, the situation looks very different. Back then, Camilla was never meant to be queen, and that wasn't gossip. It was part of the deal to calm public outrage. When she married Charles in that low-key civil ceremony, the one even Queen Elizabeth didn't attend, the plan was clear. She would remain princess consort, nothing more. That promise didn't last long at all. The royal family wasn't being modest. They were being careful because public opinion was still heavily shaped by Princess Diana's legacy. But once Queen Elizabeth passed in 2022, everything changed in an instant. Charles became king, and Camilla rose right alongside him as queen consort. No hesitation, no delay. That whole princess consort promise? Tossed out fast, like it never mattered. The palace tried to act like this was always the plan, but people weren't buying it. They saw it as a clear switch-up.
If you look at the coronation footage, you'll see that everyone bows and curtsies to the king, and no one moves a limb, a muscle, when Camilla passes. And that was because they were angry with Camilla.
After years of public backlash and being tied to Diana's story, Camilla still ended up with the crown anyway. And that shocked a lot of people. It almost feels like if you stay in the game long enough, the monarchy will rewrite the rules just to keep everything looking neat. But even with the crown, insiders say her position wasn't as solid as it looked. There were whispers that Camilla wasn't included in major decisions, which is wild for someone with her title. Big topics like succession or the future direction of the monarchy were reportedly handled without her input. When it came to charities or public image, choices were often made without her involvement. She had the title, sure, but the real control seemed just out of reach, like it was locked away somewhere she couldn't access. It gave the impression she could wear the crown, but not actually lead. And that polished image of her bond with Catherine, not as warm as it looked. Publicly, it came off friendly, but behind closed doors, it reportedly felt more like a formal arrangement than a real connection. They stayed polite when needed, but the vibe wasn't personal. It was careful and distant. On camera, it looked smooth, but once the spotlight faded, so did the smiles, and they went right back to their own lanes. Behind the scenes, things were already shifting in a quiet but serious way. If that relationship was never truly close, then maybe it was only a matter of time before distance turned into a power shift. While the public stayed locked in on Harry and Meghan's headlines, something much bigger was reportedly unfolding out of sight.
So we were going to talk about the tiara.
Really?
Yeah.
I wanted to know.
I know, but I just think it would look so fabulous if you
I've already got little tiny tiaras, they're not really worth it.
Catherine wasn't just showing up for photos or smiling through public events. She was steadily building influence, gaining respect in a way that caught people off guard. This wasn't about fashion or appearances. It was a calculated move to become one of the most important voices in the room. While others were caught up in media drama, she was focused on the long game. What makes it stand out is how strategic it all looked. Turning routine royal duties into real influence isn't easy, but she made it happen while the rest of the family stayed distracted. Her early childhood work wasn't just for show. It brought in scientists, experts, and officials to discuss real issues like brain development and long-term impact. That's not typical royal work. That's stepping into serious territory.
You often speak, don't you, about the emotional changes that sort of even you've gone through. And I think a lot of parents hopefully kind of, I suppose, identify with that. In that, you know, having a child, particularly your first child, is such a sort of life-changing moment. Nothing can really prepare you for that. Remember the first few days with little George, you know, you have no idea really what you're doing. No matter how many books you read, nothing can prepare you for it.
She moved conversations away from surface-level appearances and into data, research, and policy. That shift gave her access to rooms where titles alone don't usually open doors. And according to insiders, she wasn't just present, she was effective. Even the king reportedly noticed that she was becoming one of the most capable figures around. Then everything changed in early 2024. News broke that Catherine was facing cancer after undergoing abdominal surgery, and the reaction was immediate and powerful. This wasn't routine public sympathy. It felt personal for many people. For the first time in years, there was a deep emotional response tied to a royal figure. Crowds gathered, flowers appeared outside Kensington Palace, and the support came naturally. Not because anyone organized it, but because people genuinely cared. That kind of reaction is rare, and it showed just how strong her connection with the public had become. The way Catherine handled her illness reportedly changed everything, not just with the public, but inside palace walls too. She stayed calm, released that steady video, stepped back when needed, and kept her children protected while dealing with something incredibly serious. By late 2024, sources were saying her approach made King Charles, who was facing his own health battle, start thinking hard about the future. He was reportedly asking the real questions. Who actually has public trust? And who can handle pressure when everything falls apart? Because in that world, staying composed during chaos can shift everything. And the answer, at least to insiders, was becoming clearer. Catherine was rising fast. Camilla, on the other hand, reportedly began to sense the change. Not through one dramatic argument, but through a slow shift in energy. Meetings stopped coming her way. Key conversations moved elsewhere, and advisors began directing attention toward a different office. It wasn't loud, it was quiet but impossible to ignore. By spring 2025, the whispers turned into headlines about a serious internal shakeup. Reports claimed King Charles was moving major responsibilities away from Camilla and placing them into Catherine's hands. This wasn't about small appearances or symbolic gestures. This looked like a structured shift in influence. Observers who follow the royal system closely started raising eyebrows because it didn't feel temporary. It looked like a long-term change, one that repositioned Catherine closer to the center of decision-making. Meanwhile, Camilla's role seemed to shrink in comparison, like her seat at the table was being slowly pushed further away. One of the biggest signals came through patronages. These roles aren't just for show, they carry real influence and visibility. And several major ones, especially in areas like arts and healthcare, were reportedly reassigned from Camilla to Catherine. That kind of move doesn't go unnoticed. It sends a clear message about who is gaining ground inside the institution. Camilla spent years building her role piece by piece, so losing those patronages wasn't just a small change. It felt like everything she worked for was being wiped out. It was like the palace hit reset and handed control straight to Catherine. No warning, no pause, but it didn't stop there. Reports pointed to an even bigger shift happening behind closed doors: access. Before, Catherine's contact with the king's top advisors followed strict protocol, carefully managed and limited, which is normal for a Princess of Wales who hasn't stepped into the top role yet. But suddenly, that wall started to disappear. She was now reportedly part of conversations that used to be reserved only for Charles and Camilla. The inner circle around the king didn't just grow, it shifted in one clear direction toward Catherine, and by extension, Prince William. That kind of change doesn't happen by accident. It signals something much deeper. To seasoned royal watchers, the message was loud even without an official statement. It looked like the king was no longer preparing Catherine for the future. He was placing her right into the present power structure. And of course, the palace didn't confirm anything. They never do. There were no announcements, no explanations, no public breakdown of what was changing. The royal system speaks through actions, not words, and those paying close attention could see the pattern forming. Step by step, influence was being redirected, and insiders found it harder and harder to call it coincidence. And Camilla? She was watching all of it unfold. On the surface, she stayed composed, keeping that steady image she's known for. But behind that calm front, pressure was building. Something was clearly shifting, and sources hinted that her response was coming. And when it did, it wouldn't be small. According to royal commentator Angela Levin, Camilla finally reached her limit and made a bold move. She reportedly asked for something serious. Not a gesture, not a promise, but a written guarantee. The request was clear: protect her rank, her responsibilities, and her status from any future shakeups. It was like asking for a royal safety net right when everything around her felt unstable. Insiders described it as an ultimatum dressed up in polite language. She wasn't just hoping for reassurance, she wanted something official, something locked in. Not a quiet agreement, but something written into the system so it couldn't be easily changed later. It was her way of trying to secure her place while Catherine's influence kept growing. But when that request reached the king's side, the response was firm, and it wasn't in her favor. There was no dramatic scene, no public clash, just a cold and controlled rejection. The message reportedly focused on one thing: the monarchy needs flexibility. In other words, they didn't want to lock themselves into decisions that might not fit future circumstances. The reasoning was strategic. A written agreement could limit how the institution adapts to public opinion or future leadership shifts. And in a system built on quiet adjustments, that kind of restriction is something they avoid at all costs. They even framed the refusal as being in her best interest, which only made the situation feel more tense. The underlying message was hard to miss. She could keep the title, keep the public role, but the deeper authority wasn't something they were willing to guarantee on paper, because once it's written down, it becomes harder to reverse, and the palace prefers to keep its options open. Those close to Camilla say the reaction was intense, but controlled. No public outbursts, no dramatic leaks, just a quiet, contained anger. The kind that builds over time and stays behind closed doors, waiting for the right moment to show itself. Instead of making noise, Camilla went completely silent. And around the palace, that kind of silence doesn't go unnoticed. It feels sharp, deliberate, and impossible to ignore. People say it changed the atmosphere, making everything feel colder, more tense. But while she pulled back, the king was already shaping a future that didn't seem to fully revolve around her anymore. If his long-term vision is centered on William and Catherine, then the real question is, where does that leave Camilla? Because Charles hasn't been quiet about what he wants. From the moment he became king, he's pushed the idea of a slimmed-down monarchy. Fewer senior figures, more accountability, and a tighter group that actually delivers results. This isn't just talk. It's already shifting how power is distributed, and it's becoming clearer who stays front and center and who slowly fades into the background. The focus isn't on Charles and Camilla as a long-term duo. It's on who can carry the institution forward for decades. Right now, that spotlight is locked on William and Catherine. They're seen as the balance the monarchy needs, experienced enough to be taken seriously, but still connected to the modern world. And most importantly, they have something the institution depends on: public support. Reports from major outlets suggest Charles isn't just supporting Catherine, he's actively helping shape her path. Looking over key speeches, opening doors that usually take years to access, and using her public moments as opportunities to strengthen the monarchy's image. It's less like casual support and more like long-term planning. The way it's described, he's treating her like a chosen successor in a high-stakes system, putting time, energy, and trust into the person he believes can keep everything standing when the pressure hits. Camilla, according to sources, doesn't fit neatly into this forward-looking vision. She's earned respect in certain circles and shown a level of resilience that few people could handle. Turning a once hostile public image into something closer to acceptance wasn't easy, and that effort didn't go unnoticed. But her age, her past, and the complicated legacy tied to the Diana era still follow her. And in Charles's long-term thinking, she's reportedly seen as part of the monarchy's present, not its future. Important, established, still visible, but not the direction things are heading. That reality puts her in a tough position. Watching influence slowly fade without any clear way to stop it isn't just political. It feels personal too. Because beyond strategy and planning, there's something deeper shaping all of this. Something tied to memory and history that never really left. There's a strange irony in it all. After years of trying to move forward, the institution now seems to be building its next chapter around a figure who, in many ways, reminds the public of what came before. And as that past keeps echoing into the present, the line between memory and power starts to blur more than ever. It raises a bigger question. How much of this shift is strategy, and how much is something harder to define? Because the influence of Princess Diana hasn't faded the way many expected. Even after decades, her presence still shapes how people view the royal family today. She isn't just remembered. She's part of the foundation that still influences public feeling and perception. In many ways, that legacy continues to affect decisions, reactions, and even the balance of power inside the palace, whether anyone openly admits it or not. It almost feels like a cosmic twist. The very person the palace once tried to move past still shapes where everyone stands today. That influence hasn't faded. It's just taken a different form, and it still hits at the most unexpected moments. When Catherine's health news came out in early 2024, the public reaction was intense. People immediately started drawing comparisons to the wave of emotion after Diana's passing. And while that might sound dramatic, it didn't feel completely off. The response wasn't staged or carefully managed. It came naturally, and it was powerful. What made it hit so hard is that people feel like they actually know Catherine. Over the years, she built that connection by showing up consistently and staying relatable, even under constant attention. It never felt forced, and that made a difference. So when something serious happened, the reaction wasn't polite. It was deeply emotional. That's where the contrast becomes clear. Titles, events, and appearances can only do so much. You can attend every formal dinner, follow every protocol, and still not create that same level of connection. Respect can be maintained, but genuine public warmth is something else entirely. And inside the palace, that difference doesn't go unnoticed. Decisions are shaped not just by tradition, but by how people respond in the real world. Public support matters, and it quietly influences the direction things take. Writers and royal observers have pointed out for years that the events of the 1990s still echo through everything today. That history didn't disappear, it continues to shape perception, loyalty, and the balance of attention in ways that are hard to ignore. Every move they make seems tied to what happened with Diana. That moment didn't just pass. It stuck, and people haven't let it go. Now here comes Catherine, young, steady, focused on her family, and facing serious health challenges with real strength. That only made the public connect with her even more. She's not trying to replace anyone, but there's a familiar feeling people can't ignore. It's that same kind of presence that made people care so deeply before, and it's showing up again in a new way. Whether the palace likes it or not, that connection is powerful and hard to control. That lingering influence hasn't disappeared. It's just shifted into public expectations. No one inside the family needs to say anything for it to matter, because the audience already decided what they want to see. And for years, that space stayed open, waiting for someone to step into it. Now that it's happening, the contrast is impossible to ignore. Camilla, despite years of effort, still operates under that shadow. Public respect may be there, but the emotional connection lands differently. Meanwhile, Catherine naturally fills a role that resonates more strongly, even without trying to. So where does that leave everything? Camilla spent decades working toward acceptance, reached the top, and now finds the role changing around her. At the same time, Catherine didn't ask for this spotlight. She's dealing with personal challenges while managing public expectations. And then there's Charles, reportedly guiding these shifts while handling his own situation. It creates a complicated picture where tradition, public opinion, and personal realities all collide. The monarchy has always adapted quietly to survive. And once again, it looks like change is happening right in front of everyone. But this time, the shift isn't quiet anymore. The gears are grinding loud enough for everyone to notice. Historians have seen this pattern before. The royal system has a long history of keeping the title but quietly removing the real power. Plenty of figures in the past wore the crown but had little say in what actually happened behind the scenes. The palace knows exactly how to reshape a role without making it obvious. There's no public fallout, no dramatic exit, just a slow, controlled adjustment. In this case, Camilla isn't being pushed out in the open. She's being managed in a way that keeps everything looking stable while control moves elsewhere. And that's what makes this feel bigger than a routine change. This isn't just about appearances or minor duties shifting around. It looks like a clear signal of where things are heading. Reports suggest Charles is putting serious weight behind Catherine, positioning her as a central figure for what comes next. There's only so much space at the center, and right now, that spotlight is tightening. The focus is moving toward the figures who connect most with the public, and that reality shapes decisions more than ever. It's not just tradition anymore, it's about relevance. For the monarchy, this kind of shift carries real consequences. Public trust plays a huge role in its survival, and recent sentiment has leaned strongly toward William and Catherine. That changes how strategy is built moving forward. At the end of the day, the institution adapts to stay in place. And if that means elevating certain figures while others step back, it follows a pattern that's been repeated for generations, just now happening in a way that's much harder to miss. This isn't about kindness or playing favorites. It's strategy, plain and simple. A cold, calculated move where protecting the institution comes first, no matter who gets pushed aside. Kings have made decisions like this for centuries, choosing survival over sentiment every single time. But no matter how polished it looks on the surface, there's a human side that's hard to ignore. Camilla isn't just a title or a role that can be adjusted when the numbers don't look right. She spent decades under intense criticism, blamed for a situation that was already falling apart long before she stepped in. Through all of it, she stayed, endured, and slowly rebuilt her image piece by piece. She put in the time, took the hits, and earned her place. And now, just as things finally settled, it seems like the rules are shifting again. The focus is moving toward a newer image, a different direction, and that leaves her position looking less certain than ever. It's a tough reality, having everything you worked for reshaped without warning. From years of being criticized to finally reaching the top, only to feel that role start changing beneath your feet. That kind of shift hits differently, especially at this level. So what do you think? Was this the right move for the future of the monarchy, or does it cross a line on a personal level? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you want more breakdowns like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share.